it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today this one came together like no other, and maybe it's this embossing folder, maybe it's the design, I'm not sure, a combination of everything, but this has got to be, I just really enjoyed this process. I am always wary of things when you have a picture in your mind and you think it's going to turn out one way, and I just have to be flexible. Well, let me be honest and say this turned out pretty much exactly the way I wanted it to, and there were very few hiccups, really simple, really straightforward, and it created something that I think is gorgeous. So I have just run this through on a larger piece of paper. Just at this point, I was kind of just having a play and seeing what I wanted to do, but as soon as I saw how it came out, just the white is absolutely beautiful. But we're going to crack into this one and add some colors. I was definitely inspired by the image on the front, so I'm going to be using some finger daubers and some distress oxide inks. By the way, this is the Fallen Leaf by Crafter's Companion. It is a 5.5 by 5.5 inch embossing folder. It's a relatively good price, I would say, $7.99, which is not expensive for an embossing folder these days at all. It's 3D, absolutely gorgeous. I am starting off with some fossilized amber. I do have some spice marmalade, some mustard seed, but really I use fossilized amber, peeled paint, and then a little bit of mowed lawn. But you can see just how, I don't know, I'm just plonking these colors on. They are much heavier in some places, they are much lighter in some places. I am not at all sticking to the leaves, I'm going on the outside. You're going to see how this all comes together, and really I just had fun with this one. I can see this being turned into lots of different designs. Of course, we can change this up for every season as well. Quite like that, quite versatile. But anyhow, this one is going to be some of the spiced marmalade, just adding in a little bit of orange. I mean, you could do this with any inks. It certainly doesn't have to be the oxide inks. You could do this with pigment inks, dye inks. You could do this with probably acrylic paints, watercolor paints, lots of things. I mean, I'm just having fun. Things like pan pastels, gelatos, if you've got those hidden away, that would be fun. And then from here, I kind of, you can see how much not care I've taken, but how beautiful I think this is shaping up. So let's keep going. I'm just going to do a few techniques, but kind of with a few things we've got. So this is the peeled paint. I've added a little bit of water on an acrylic blot. I'm trying to do some really big, messy, random splotches. I've got no plans. I'm okay if things don't go to plan because I feel like I can cover them up. At this point, I truly didn't even know if I was going to turn these into a card. I was just playing. I really wanted to get a feel for the embossing folder. I was recording this, but I didn't know this was going to be a video at the time. So yeah, just how it is. But really, you can just sort of see my process of trying a few colors. I mixed them together to get some browns. Of course, to me, this feels very sort of autumnal, and that's okay. We are in the depths of winter here in New Zealand at the moment. I personally don't think it really matters about the seasons. I gave this card out last week to someone, and so I felt completely fine about it. But I'm just going ahead and adding some splatters. Bigger splatters, littler splatters, add more water, add less water, and then really it's just a matter of going through some techniques. So I have some text background. This one happens to be the Handwritten by Hurley. Of course, it's an entire background, but I don't need that at all. If you have any little stamps that are just going to be some text, this is really where I'm just adding a bit of texture and interest, so it doesn't have to be text at all. You could use a stencil and do some inking through a stencil if that's what you have. I'm going to pick up this little one called Lots of Dots from All in Create again, and all I'm using is one tiny little corner up here. I'm just using the exact same colors, so I don't need a perfect imprint. That's why I'm not using an acrylic block or anything. I'm just using my fingers. I really want it to be quite imperfect actually, and then I'm just sort of stamping the colors on top of themselves. So where there's some greens and yellows, I'm doing the greens, and where there's oranges and yellows, I'll do the oranges. It doesn't have to stand out. It doesn't have to be, it's really just adding layers and adding textures. So these things you can definitely all see in person. If you sort of study the card a little bit, you can see all these extra features. It just adds to it all. And then, of course, I had a little bit of just basically plain water here, and I thought, yeah, I might as well add some of that on, because these are oxides, they're going to react with water, and so this will kind of like have that bleaching effect where you take away the color. So give it a few seconds to set, and then you can just mop it up with a little paper towel and take away some of the color. It's fairly uneven and splotchy as is at the moment, which I quite like, but you can see obviously that I've been super messy. There is colour all around the outsides, which I'll explain for 2 reasons in a minute why I like the look of this embossing folder. But first of all, recently scrapbook.com have come out with refills for their clear glitter markers. Now, I love these glitter markers. They are very similar to Wink of Stella, but scrapbook.com often have 1, 2, 3, 4 freebies that you can throw in with your pack, and these glitter markers are often one that is a freebie, and so I have a whole range of these now, all from freebies. I've never purchased one, and I always refill them one time with water, but now they sell the glitter marker refills, and so I purchased one of them. I would say I used about 1/5 to 1/4 of that little bottle, refilling it one time. So I would say it would do between 3 to 5 different refills. But what I want to see is, because I used to refill it one time with water because there was so much glitter left in the tube after it emptied the first time, this was before you could buy the refills, I used to fill it with water one time. So I want to see if I can, with the refill, use it like I normally would and then refill it with water after that, and do I still get the same beautiful amount of, shimmer and mica and all those beautiful things. So, experiments will happen. But what I did do is I popped it down onto an acrylic blot, squeezed it out lots so that I got really good liquid, and then I'm going to give it lots of splatter. So now there's shiny splatter on there as well. Now, as I said, a couple of reasons why for this embossing folder I like the look of it. One is what we're going to do here. I've been really messy around the outsides. I like this look, how we block out the background. I'm going to use some antique linen, which is a Tim Holtz Distress paint, acrylic paint, and then I'm also going to use some Dina Wakley, the white acrylic paint. So I'm just going to do a mixture of these two so that it's just not a perfect background, it's sort of a mixture of the two. And of course the oxides that are down there already are going to reactivate a little bit, but that's fine because it kind of goes with the colors. Anyhow, the 2 reasons: 1, I can paint around the edge of this beautifully. I could also mask this beautifully. If I run this embossing folder through with some masking magic, I can then cut this out and create a really nice mask very easily. 2, I can also fussy cut this and make this beautiful giant big leaf really easily. So as I said, when I'm looking at these things and I'm thinking, how easy is this going to be to achieve this look? Now, most embossing folders that have foliage and florals, that's going to be a decent amount of work. Sometimes you can do like half of them or a certain edge of them, and that's definitely easier. This one here, I looked at it and thought, yeah, I can cut out this whole thing. And this is a really big size that I could pop this on a regular 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base and still have lots of options about how I placed it and how I angled it. And because of course you'd have to cut a little bit more off, but for the first one I'm creating here, I'm creating a square and blanking out that extra. Now, in real life, you can actually see a little bit of the text and the stamping behind it. That's only because I haven't, if I really wanted to block that out, I would probably do a second layer once this acrylic paint had dried. I like dulling the background and being able to see a little bit of it, so I'm keeping that. I'm happy with that as it is. Now let's make it into a card. I am going to keep this fairly simple because I really like the look of this. And as I said, I was inspired by the packaging, by the colors. This was really a bit of a play session for me, but I did want to show you that actually, this one was created really easily. I was not too fussy with the coloring, and yet I think it turned out pretty well. So I'm going to use some sweet mango coloured cardstock here, just because I think that's going to really set off those beautiful oranges. Mind the sticky plaster that's on my finger here. I did attempt to accidentally cut off my finger, which was not great and very painful, and so I apologise about that. But crafting must happen. That's okay. I love my crafting time, and anytime I get to do it, I'm going to take advantage of it, no matter what. And then this time I'm going to pop this down onto a plain cardstock, just a white background, because we've got a lot of of colours going on, and just a couple of little borders and matting layers. You could also do the matting layer in acrylic paint if you wanted to, but I was happy adding this one here, and this is how it's looking. Can you catch that beautiful shimmer? It is a little bit hard to see, but not in real life. It is stunning, adds a lot to it. As for the sentiment, I'm going for this beautiful simple thanks. This is from Simon Says stamp, and it's got this delicate little thanks. This can be used on its own, which I like too, but against the shadow, this is a fairly, not busy and not bright, but a little bit of those background, and so this shadow layer is going to help. I could have done it perhaps with vellum, but it just didn't block out enough of the colour behind it. So white it is, and as I said, really nice and easy, a nice little thanks. I'm going to pop this just down in the corner. You can actually place this wherever you want to cover up anything you don't specifically like, or anywhere where the ink was a little bit funky, or you got a splotch that you didn't love. And then I add some glitter marker on top of that black cardstock, again just for the shine factor, but this one was a fun one. A really sort of unexpected fun video, because I didn't really have an expectation, or it sort of actually met my expectations really easily, which doesn't always happen at all. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed creating this, and YouTube has some more videos here that they think you might like. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!